welcome everyone to our virtual chapter meeting of the California Peninsula ASID. We're here this evening to share Prelude to CARMEL Be Well, which is an event that we've scheduled. We had it scheduled for May. It's been rescheduled for September 11th to 13th, and we'll talk a little more about that at the end. I want to share with you that several years ago, I loved the whole concept of healing spaces and environmental sustainability, well-being, and I was reading books, and I found a lot of this information used in the commercial environment, hospitality, wayfinding, and hospitals. And I felt like there should be something that someone, a residential designer, or anyone who didn't have the time or didn't want to go through these whole critical accreditations could have concepts that they could use right away. And Morana Medved, who's one of our presenters tonight, presented at the Emerging Professionals event last year about all the accreditations one can get in terms of LEED and WELL. And I loved what she was saying about WELL. So I reached out to her and she got me in touch with Anna Harrison, who is a past president. And they had just put together something for West Valley that was sort of the tidbits of what we're talking about today. So this has blossomed, and this was all prior to National talking about a WELL conference. So our timing is impeccable, and this is all prior, obviously, to this pandemic that we're going through now, which calls all the more for us to keep ourselves well and to build environments that are well for everyone around us. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce Anna Harrison. And Anna Harrison is ASID, lead AP and ALEP, Director of Educational Planning at ADIS Architects, and she's a past president of our chapter. And Morana Medved, who has a number of accreditations behind her name. I'm going to say them all. NCIDQ, CID, LEED, ID, and C, WELL, AP, and EDAC. She's Senior Tech Lead at Arctic, I always mess this up, Arctic and Architecture. She's also a lecturer at Interior Design Department at San Jose State University. I want to thank them for being here this evening. We would not be here without them, and they have incredible wealth and depth of knowledge, as well as an enthusiasm and passion for this concept. So with that, I will let Anna take it. Thank you all.
Thank you all. I'm going to share my screen now, and hopefully I will do this correctly. And then I would suggest, I think that you probably will be in side-by-side. If you're in speaker view, you'll have a bit of a better experience. And I wanted to let my cohort know that I cannot see the chat right now. So I'm going to need your guys' help with me with the chat. And welcome. So thank you, Janet, for a fabulous introduction. This is the Prelude to Be Well, a mini version of the full workshop. And you'll see as we get started, we're going to go through pretty quickly, and we're going to hit about 10 to 20% of the information that you will be getting in the full workshop. And again, to remind you to have your chat open and available, because we are going to be asking you to participate. Morana?
So thank you, Anna. So as we get started, I wanted to let everybody know how this whole thing came together. So Janet gave you the story, how we got together with ASID. And I originally approached Anna to work with me on a presentation for West Valley students. I wanted to promote well-being and the WELL building standard. And that resulted in her grilling me very thoroughly about this WELL building standard, because it was a new thing and she wasn't sure about it and if it's the appropriate thing, and before we could possibly buy into that. So I'm glad to say she's fully bought into the WELL building standard, and I'm fully bought into the biophilia. And we want to tell all the world now that they should know about this and that they should be fully bought in and applying it to all of their projects. So that's why we are here today, and full of enthusiasm and needs to teach you about it. So this is what we're going to do today. I'm going to start with overview of WELL building standard concepts. And then Anna is going to do a quick overview of biophilic design patterns. might want to have a little notebook and pen handy. You might want to jot down some notes. We're going to give you resources as well as we go along, so keep your eye on the chat at all times. There'll be some links posted. And then we're going to hand it over to you and break you out in breakout rooms so you can discuss what you learn and how you're going to apply the found knowledge. And we're going to wrap up with the little share and the exit poll. So that is the plan for today. So let's get started. Well-being used to be something that you would maybe hope to get on your project, and if you're lucky. But last year, CIDQ, the administrators of NCIDQ, actually changed the official definition of interior design. And well-being is now part of the definition of interior design, as well as consideration of physical, mental, and emotional needs of people in the spaces that we design. So it's as relevant and as important as your HSW and health, life, safety, and welfare was before. With that in mind, we want to keep it in mind also because it's part of health. Health, that basic HSW element, is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, according to the World Health Organization. The WHO, we've been hearing about them quite a bit lately, but even before that, they were trying to define what it is that makes us healthy, and well-being on multiple levels is the crucial part of that. So what is that well-being that we're talking about? Let's take a moment to reflect. It means something slightly different to each one of us. So I'm going to ask for audience participation, and please take a deep breath. Center, maybe close your eyes, and think about what well-being means to you, what it means to you in your body, in your life, in the life of your loved ones. So don't think right now about the standards and the environment and the design, just what it means to you personally. And please share your thoughts in a chat when you're ready.
And by the way, Morana, I can see my chat. I figured myself out. So I'm seeing balance. Nice.
Peace of mind, stability. Stability is really important.
Calm and connected from the passionate one.
Energized. Energized is good too, right? Absence of stress. Yeah. Feeling satisfied. Oh yeah, getting enough rest, right? Physically, mentally too, right? Being rested. But thank you guys for sharing. But yeah, balance of all of the aspects of the life. So let's talk a little bit about how we can achieve that well-being through the design that we do. So the Well Building Standard, it was rolled out in 2014, and it was the first standard that focuses exclusively on the health and wellness of people in buildings, not on the energy, not on the environment, just not on the stability of the buildings, but on the people that occupy those buildings. And it's heavily based on the scientific and medical research and literature, how the environmental health behavioral factors affect our health outcomes as a part of the environment that we live in. And talking about the environment, we spend a lot of time indoors, right? Approximately 90% of the time, although I'm pretty sure right now, as we've been inside and the same indoors, that we're probably feeling like it might be a little bit more than that, right? Because we cannot change the indoors that we're in. So we are more so than usual feeling how the indoor spaces, how our environment affects us. And it does affect us. The environment, our physical and social environment, determines the state of our health. It determines the state of our health more than lifestyle factors, our medical care, and the genes. And this statistic is actually by the CDC, another group we've been hearing more about lately. So a scientifically based environment affects us. And our goal as interior designers is to create positive human experience within that environment. And this is how Well helps us do it. It looks not only at the design, but it's holistic, and it looks at the behavior of the people that can be affected by their environment, and also operations, you know, the facilities, maintenance, everything that happens to keep the building going. So it's a holistic view to the built environment. And this is how it breaks down. So well, and we are in version 2. Version 1 had 7 concepts. We are now up to 10 concepts. And this is what they are. They're bookended by air, you know, the basic human need, breathing air. And then on the other end, bookended by community, the other basic human need. And these two actually have more credits, more features in the well language and the prerequisites. So many of these have prerequisites. Some of the things are optional. You can see a lot of things deal with human comfort in a space, like the light, movement, thermal comfort, sound, and other aspects of the interior environment. Now, we'd like to take you through all the details of this, but it takes a little bit of time, so you're going to have to come to the full workshop in September to cover all of them. But we'll give you a quick run through some of the ones that we think are most important, and we're going to get started with air. So we breathe 4 times as much air as the liquid and food that we consume in any given day. So it's one thing that we consume more than anything else. And as such, that thing that what we're consuming in it affects us more than anything else. So I want you to become very aware of the air around you. Take another deep breath. What is it like? What is the air in your space like? Is it awesome and fresh because, like Anna, you have an open window and you're watching your chickens outside? Is it feeling a little bit stuffy at the end of the workday? So I want you to use the chat box again and let us know what your air feels like. Hoping to see a lot of clean and fresh air. Okay, refreshing. Good. You guys have good environments. Ceiling fans are great. Still. Okay, we have some, okay, I'm jealous. Some people have the ocean breeze. And cold in the basement. Okay, it looks like most of you guys have fresh air, so you're already implementing well. You're doing great. Let's see what well tells us about what are different things we can do with the air. So, you know, there are obviously performance metrics and checking on the air quality, ventilation and operable windows, getting that fresh ocean breeze, and filtering the air for the allergens. You mentioned the smells and the allergens from the outside, and basic things like the smoking ban. So there are actually a lot of different things you can do about the indoor air as part of the well standard. And one thing I wanted to point out is what it is that affects indoor air quality the most. We always think about air quality as something coming from the outside, but really the things that affect our indoor quality are things that we add to the space. And in great percent that this is building materials, furnishing, fabrics, things that create volatile organic compounds, those VOCs that we all know about. So what we put in a space as interior designers directly impacts the indoor air quality. The other big element is different types of combustion sources, which can be, you know, the stoves, the fireplaces, and the other things that we design into the environment. So we might think, as Anna was grilling me at one point, that we really don't affect the air, but as interior designers, we really very much do. So we should think about it as we design. Next, I wanted to talk about light. So daylight is obviously crucial to our health, and most of us, even if we haven't read the research, know that if we disrupt our body's circadian rhythm by sitting in a dark room in front of the computer all day, we have some negative health outcomes coming out of that. At the minimum, we're going to feel more stressed and depressed. And there's a whole slew of studies listed here and more out there that tell us how important it is to have exposure to daylight. Now, I know we're all in front of the screen right now. We couldn't have done it otherwise. Hopefully in September, we get to have some fresh air and daylight as we do this. But I'm hoping you guys have some daylight in your space, or maybe some really cool mood lighting, or maybe you're efficient with your compact fluorescent lights. So let me know, use the chat, and let me know what your lighting is like, what your environment feels like from the light aspects right now. Okay, big windows, trees, lots of daylight. Again, you guys know what you're doing with your spaces. Windows have some LEDs, much better than the compact fluorescents. Okay, you guys are all looking at the trees. Oh, wow, we have some dichroic and LED sconces. Some sophisticated, like, oh, skylights. Love the skylights. Great way to really watch the space in daylight. Awesome. So we're all aware of the light in our space now. So let's talk about what well gives us about light. So obviously the occupant control, being able to create your lighting and daylighting axis are huge here. We also talk about visual acuity. And then the big aspect is circadian lighting design. So preference is having daylight, but we can also design our lighting to support our circadian rhythm. So if you look at the next slide, as humans, we need exposure to the blue light in the morning and then more yellower and pinker light as we go on during the day. It supports our biological clock and affects our alertness and mood, cognition, and also our sleep patterns. So if we cannot provide daylight in our spaces, it's really important to design our lighting system to support this. So now that we covered light, just again, keep in mind indoor access to daylight, the best thing you can do. One thing you take from today. Let's talk about the last concept I'm going to cover today, and that's mind. A large percentage of adults experience mental health condition during their lifetime, and during the stressful times like right now, that's again even more so than ever apparent. And what we do with our indoor environment, with our built spaces, can affect the mental health outcomes. So here are some of the things that well supports and suggests for that. You can see first and foremost, and this is a prerequisite, is access to nature. If you can see nature, if you can bring the nature in with a plant, that is great. There are a lot of also policies and programs and things we can do beyond this. So that's where we're getting into the operations and the behavior component, that holistic component as well. So there are a lot of additional things in addition to what we do as designers that we incorporate as part of well. But I wanted to reflect on that access to nature for a moment. So design strategies like that indoor access to nature, if we can move on to the next slide, they'll help relieve stress and anxiety. And here it's talking about the workplace, but they'll help relieve stress and anxiety in any type of an environment. And also the nice thing is they enhance the overall perceived health status. Not only will you be healthier, but you will feel healthier by having that, feeding that innate connection with nature that we all have, the biophilia. And on that note, I'm gonna give it over to Anna to talk more about biophilia.
Thank you, Morana. So I just wanted you to know, Carolyn, that I have been admitting people into the waiting room, and I don't know if you can access the waiting room from where you are, but while I'm speaking, I probably won't be admitting anyone. So Morana just gave you a lot of information, and I'd like to just take a moment to guide you through a nature meditation. So this is a moment for you to breathe. And what I'm asking you to do, we'll just do 2-minute quick nature meditation. Sit upright in your chair with your feet firm on the ground and close your eyes. Take a breath in through the nose and out through the nose. And now imagine you're in your favorite place in nature. It can be the forest, the beach, or perhaps your own backyard. Using your imagination, take a look around. What do you see? Inhale through your nose. What do you smell? Open your ears. What nature sounds do you hear? Reach out your hand and touch the ground beside you. How does it feel? Is it rough, smooth, warm, damp? Is there something in your environment that you can taste? What does it taste like? Take another breath in through the nose and out through the nose. And then gently open your eyes and blink a couple of times. Welcome back. We would love to know where you went on your nature meditation and what experiences you had. So please feel free to write some in the chat. Nice. Salty air. The smell of salt in the air on the beach is one of my favorite smells. All right, Payal went to Hawaii. See where you can go in your mind? On the beach, on the beach. So please keep writing in your nature meditation locations. What you've experienced is a taste of biophilia, and that is our innate human affinity for nature and natural systems. The term biophilia was actually first used in the 1960s by psychologist Erich Fromm, and then it was popularized by Edward O. Wilson when he wrote the book Biophilia in 1984. Biophilia literally means love of nature. Can you feel the love? This little tree hugger is demonstrating biophilia. Abundant, frequent, and diverse interaction with nature reduces stress. It literally affects every aspect of our physiology, our bodily functions, from our heart rate to our digestion. Abundant, frequent, and diverse interaction with nature has been shown to improve our cognition, our creativity, and our ability to learn. Abundant, frequent, and diverse interaction with nature has been shown to improve our mood. It makes us happier and more able to self-regulate. These are critical components of well-being. Would you agree? To bring biophilia and support biophilia in interior environments and the environments we design, we lean on the work done by these three luminaries as well as others. The late, great Stephen R. Kellert, Judith Heerwagen, the recipient of the ASID Design for Humanity Award, and Bill Browning, the founder of Terrapin Bright Green, a sustainability consulting firm. To talk about biophilic design patterns, we use the patterns from Terrapin Bright Green, and this is a white paper that's free. You can download it and read it. The 14 patterns are broken up into 3 categories. The nature in the space patterns, and these are the patterns you experienced in your mind when you did your nature meditation. Sight, smell, taste, the feel of air on your skin, the touch. The second group of patterns are the natural analogs, and this is what we use when we can't get the real thing. And the last set of patterns are the nature of the space patterns, which speak to our need for safety and security, and also exploration and excitement. In the 60-page white paper, 14 Patterns in Biophilic Design, is this wonderful resource, a description of all the patterns and a list of all of the scientific studies that have been done on each pattern, which support the contention that our motions, mood, and cognition are directly affected by nature. I'm going to take a really high-level walk through the patterns. The nature in the space patterns, again, the patterns you experienced in your meditation, are well represented in this one image of an interior that looks out on a beautiful garden with a water feature. These patterns are all the senses, all 5 senses, and temperature, humidity, water, light. So I ask you to look around you and see if you can locate any of these patterns in your current environment right now. Identify them in the chat. Some of these you've already mentioned, seeing trees through a window, feeling the airflow. Exactly. So you're starting to see this overlap and this connection between the well concept and biophilic design. Thank you. One of the most powerful things we can do to support biophilia and well-being in the built environment is through adding greenery. Adding greenery supports student academic success and reduces feelings of stress and anxiety. Morana talked about light, and in this context, dynamic and diffuse light is evident in these images as the shadow play as light moves across the horizon. The shadows act as a sundial and create a sense of time and place, critical for our circadian system functioning, and also beautiful to see. We'll take a quick dip into the water. We naturally gravitate towards it. Water means life. It's no wonder that water reduces stress, increases feelings of tranquility. Water elements, small and large, all have a positive impact on well-being. I mentioned before the natural analogs, what we use when we can't get the real thing. These are the patterns that guide shape and scale of space and use of materials. Nature abhors a straight line, so we think about incorporating organic shapes into our design solutions. We can connect with nature also by seeking out minimally processed natural materials. And natural environments contain both complexity and order. To achieve the right mix between the two that keeps us interested and engaged, while also giving us a sense of calm and well-being, we can look to nature's math of fractal geometry and the Fibonacci series. This is truly the art and science of design coming together. Color is one of our greatest tools. We can use for designing well-being. Every color palette you could ever imagine can be found in nature. I ask you to consider, what emotions does the color palettes in your designs evoke, and what behaviors do they cue? This is a homeless shelter dining hall, a traditional one. And here is the same idea in a biophilic design. I ask you, which of these two spaces would have a positive impact on the well-being of the occupants? Biophilic design works for traditional settings and contemporary settings. The final set of patterns I'm going to talk about today is the nature of the space patterns: prospect, refuge, mystery, risk, and peril. In this image, we start to see how the patterns can be used together and layered with one another. There's a reading nook which provides refuge and a view which provides prospect. In this image, the suspended catwalk provides a sense of risk with a safety net. And this image of the spiral staircase has many biophilic patterns present. There's mystery, as we're invited to explore what lies beyond where we can see. There's a little risk in the exposed risers. And patterns from the natural analogs are also present. The use of wood provides material connection to nature, and the curvilinear form is definitely biomorphic. So those are the 14 patterns, and there's more. Terrapin Bright Green actually recently announced a 15th pattern, awe. This pattern is self-transcendent experiences. For instance, the magnificence of a sunset over the ocean, a rainbow, a waterfall. There are studies coming out now that describe the impact of awe on our brains, bodies, and emotions. So I challenge you, how can you design in experiences of awe in the projects that you design? Now we're going to play match game. Morana?
Thank you, Anna. So these are the 10 well concepts we talked about, and not 14, but 15 biophilic patterns that Anna just covered. And I wanted to mention that in the chat, Caroline has been posting some of the resources and links. We'll ask her to post them once again towards the end of the presentation, so you can access additional information about all of these. And I'd also like to suggest that you take either with your camera or with a little snipping tool to take a screenshot of this particular slide, because once we put you into breakout rooms, you might want to refer to the information and it won't be on the screen anymore. So what we want to do here is we want to identify the synergies and the connection between the two different standards. And Anna is jumping on and taking the low-hanging fruit with the water and the presence of water. And so what you can do is, if you're familiar with the annotate tool here in Zoom, you can just draw the lines between any connection that you see. Anna and I are going to do that live on the screen, or you can put the connections that you see in the chat, and we're going to reflect that on the screen. Okay, let's find another easy one. So right, light and visual connection to the nature. Anna, do you have another one? Okay, I'm taking this one. This is an easy.
Sound and non-visual connection to nature.
So to draw in Zoom, I'm getting a question. If you go towards the top of your screen, the window, there's going to be a pull-down menu called View Options. And if you select Annotate from the View Options, you're going to get a little toolbar where you can select a line. Okay, so we have movement and the risk and peril. I like that.
Movement and risk and peril, mind and prospect. Did you get that one?
Yeah, mind and prospect
Mind
right
and
there.
Prospect. Oh.
Good, people are joining us.
Nice. Oh, perfect. What else have we got? Community
Have light
and natural systems, lovely.
Okay, we have mind, we have sound and connection with natural systems. Cool, I like all of the different lines we're getting there.
This is fabulous.
Cool. This is so much better than when we do it in person, because in person we cannot get everybody up on a board to draw the line this quickly.
We have complexity and order with community, thermal comfort, and dynamic and diffuse light.
Yeah, I'm connecting that one now. And somebody already connected the complexity and community for us.
So you guys have
you
all have just made the case for the premise of our presentation, Be Well.
These two systems work together, right? If you're implementing one, you're implementing the other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, movement, visual connection to nature. Okay, let's get one last one in. Oh, nourishment and water.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I can see that one. It's the watercolor image. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Payal got us, well, 5 or 6 different ones. And I'm going to take a screenshot of this so we have it for posterity. And we can share this after the presentation. So now it's time to get to work. So let's move on to our next slide. So while we do this, I wanted to actually note to anybody who came late, you'll see that everybody renamed themselves to include a descriptor, an adjective as part of their profile picture. So if you are just joining us late, before we break you up into groups, please change your profile name to something that reflects you. So you can compare notes as we team you up with some of the other people in the group. So first, we'd like you to bring to mind a project you're currently working on. Any project typography works. I'm assuming a lot of interior designers here, so they're going to be interiors projects, residential, commercial, schools, like homeless shelters, hospitals. And then we're going to ask you to think about which well concepts or biophilic design patterns you're already including in your project. Assuming all of you have some daylight, so all of you have some of the elements already there. And then, as a challenge, we want you to come up with a couple of ideas to add more of the well concepts or biophilic design patterns to address the well-being of the client and the users who will be living, working, learning, healing, and existing in the spaces in your building. So once again, I would suggest to take a quick picture of the screen or a little snipping shot before Carolyn is going to jump in and break us out. And I have a question here. So yes, academic projects, I see students here. Academic projects are perfectly fine. And we are almost ready for the breakout. So does anybody, before we do that, does anybody have any questions what we're going to be doing? So your groups are going to be 3 to 4, and you're going to have 12 minutes. So you probably want to spend about a minute to describe your project, a minute or two to describe your project and what you're already doing, and then go around the group again and together try to identify some of the additional things you want to incorporate in a project. And make sure you take some notes because we're going to ask you to share once you all come back. So any more questions?
All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we'll see you in your breakout. See you after breakout.
Welcome back, everybody. So how was it? Okay, good. We also have some comments. How was that? Did you guys come up with something really cool? Yes. So what we'd like to ask you again, we want to hear from everybody, and the most effective way of doing that is, can you write down what it is that you came up with, something new that you're going to add to your projects that you got inspired to do? Hopefully everybody took notes.
Well, I came late, so I talk a little bit and I didn't have a chance to hear from others. I'm sorry.
Janet, I'm curious how you're going to put awe into your project.
Well, we just talked about this. I mean, you can do it with something large, like beyond human scale, like a large mural on a wall, right? Or it could be something as simple as painting a beautiful color of a client's on the inside of a cabinet. So when she opens up that cabinet, there's like a, so that was my big to small.
All right,
I'd love to have a big view, but
we have 2 more minutes. How's the polling going? One of the ideas that we talked about in our breakout room was how to get fitness and nourishment into a bath design. Pael, do you want to share what we came up with?
Sure. So I had Anna and Stacy with me in the breakout room, and I mentioned to them that this is an academic bath design project in which I tried to include as many well elements as I could, but then I couldn't apply nourishment and fitness, and they helped me out. So for nourishment, Anna suggested that I could include, Anna and Stacy both suggested that I could include small plants of mint or rosemary that could, bring in the smell and the taste as well. And then for the fitness element, there could be something that is used for massage. So you have the massage, but you also have some kind of exercise or fitness element going in there. So those are the 2 elements that I can now incorporate in my project. That was really helpful. Thank you.
Great. Wow.
Anyone else have a unique idea come up? Maybe something you didn't think of before?
I have an idea. I'm not sure how to create it, but to give a sense of awe, if there's some way that you could, let's say you're in a space and you've got an amazing view, and there's a way that the view could be revealed. so that there was a sense of awe. So maybe that's through automated window treatments that would sort of open up at somehow. I have to figure out a really cool way to do that. But the whole concept of awe as a pattern is just, it's just wild. I love that. Yeah. Thank you.
So I was thinking, you know, segueing to that, of course, we are talking about the visual, but how about the tactile that you create through because we saw that in the poll, there are so many material, right? Everybody just really put emphasis on the importance of the material creating well. So maybe, you know, just creating texture and those different tactile qualities that could also create that when you sit on the sofa or when you touch something, there's that sensory, you know, satisfaction and refuge, or it reminds you something. So it could be even something that's small that just takes you out of your, especially in a commercial maybe content that you are, you know, surrounded with a lot of very, you know, rigid materials maybe, or the intensity of the work that you're doing, taking you from that linearity, and then maybe even that kind of a small be a nice touch.
Looks like awe is getting a lot of votes.
And refuge, and then visual connection to nature, but that's kind of a given. I think we're all trying to get that. We were talking in our breakout group about that. What do you do when facing, looking out of your, and Cheatham was actually talking about looking out of the space you have a window, but it's facing a concrete parking lot with a chain link fence. Well, you grow some vines on the chain link fence, right? Just do something, get a little bit of nature out there so you can look at it.
Another, a landscape architect that I work with, he likes to focus on the little tiny bits of awe, like hanging a prism in a window, so that at certain times of the day, it casts wonderful rainbow colors that you come across unexpectedly. Awesome. Shall we move to, we have just 2 more questions, right?
Yes, so I'll go ahead and close this question.
Yeah, visual connection to nature and win the game. But it looks like we have all of the different, not too many votes for risk.
Such an underrated pattern.
I know, the risk and the prospect, and that, yeah, just getting your heart beating a little bit. So we wanted to, so the next question itself, we wanted to find out how knowledgeable do you feel after this presentation? It's much easier one than the previous ones, had so many potential answers.
We got a lot of smart people in this room. A lot of experienced designers.
I'll give you guys a few more seconds. Like we've got 15 out of 19 people who voted.
Okay, good. So, so hopefully we all feel we learned a little something. Thinking back on that intent that we set for the beginning, if anybody wants to, since we have chat open, so if anybody wants to share, if how did they feel about that intent right now? Did it come through?
We've got fun and connections, inspired by other creative people, more understanding of well.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
Keep on the list for September event. That's a trigger to the next question.
Yes.
So are you going to join us in September?
we really have hit the tip of the iceberg in terms of biophilic design patterns and layering the patterns and using them in subtle ways, all of which will be very familiar to the seasoned designer, and a more vocabulary to express it to your clients, justify those fees, which you all deserve.
And Anna, I think you hit the nail on the head, because it's obvious that we all do it both intuitively and consciously. And it is articulating those concepts to share with our client. So when we are fighting for something or sharing something with them, we have evidence to show that we're not doing this because it looks pretty, you know, the complex, anyway. So those tools are what I'm excited about learning more about and articulating with the workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And the great benefit of both well and biophilia and what we touched upon, and also actually, Caroline, if you can post the resources again, so all of the 14 patterns of biophilia, well, 15, and then the well-built standard, when you actually go to the resources, everything is research-based. So there are actually studies, there's data, there is the scientific backing for each and every implementation. So you don't just have to tell the client, like, it will be better if we have more daylight in a space, but here is actually all of the research and here are actual results that you can get out of them. Thank you. So all of the resources were posted again, so you can have the full background on these. Okay,
and thank you,
yeah.
Thank you, Anna Morana, for providing the resources, because that's huge. Again, it's about how do we take what we've learned and run with it and be able to articulate it. And it looks like the polls came in for how likely are you to attend the CARMEL Be Well. And again, we would not do anything without following county and CDC safety protocols and social distancing. And we have 67% are very likely, 13% some likely, and 20% unlikely. So there is more information on the website at capenasid.org. So please check that out. We're not sure what form this workshop will take, and that was part of why we're polling you as well as all of our members, because it could be that there is some sort of a hybrid where we have some people that are in person and there are people that can join us virtually. But either way, somehow this workshop will prevail, because this information needs to be shared now in time, and not waiting until we can all be out and be together, which hopefully is sooner rather than later. But anyway, so Anna Morana, thank you so much. There's anything, I just am very thankful. My intent was to feel the energy and passion from other people that I know share this, and that I just feel like it's a ripple in the pond. It's going to keep going, and it's our job to keep rippling. And so I thank you for that. If there's anything else you want to add before we all say good night and go and get our breezes, our fresh air.
I'm just going to put my email address in the chat, and I encourage anybody, if you want to reach out and talk more about biophilic design and well, we're here as a resource. And thank you to the ASID California Peninsula chapter for putting this on and for caring about this. Thank you, Janet.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you all for having us.
Thank you, Morana. And thank you, Caroline, for being our technical director. And one last thing, I just also wanted to thank the companies that Anna and Morana work for, which is ADIS Architects for Anna, and Arctic and Art and Architecture for Morana, and San Jose State. So thank you again for your sharing.
Thank you.
So, good night.
Great.
Be well and stay
Thank
well.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.